Tuteni and 3 singles. Tuteni and 3 singles.
In June of 2025.
And 3 singles.
In June of 2025.
And 3 singles.
It's Thursday. Oh my gosh. Let me turn my fan down here. Thanks, Druid. What is the weather doing in your neck of the woods? It's been, I guess, April showers here. I had meetings yesterday and I had planned to cook dinner and things kind of went sideways a little bit. And so I said to my husband, hey, I'll run out and get something. And, hey, Kate. Oh my gosh, long time no see. Glad you're lurking. I'm glad to know you're out there. So there's this like hibachi carryout place that we've frequented over the years, and they've opened a new location really close to me in a shopping center close to me. So I was like, I'll run over there, get something. Well, my husband's like, yeah, better hurry because I think it might be raining. And I was like, oh yeah, I think that they're calling for thunderstorms. Actually, several hours before this point, they were calling for thunderstorms. Anyway, I walk outside. I'm like, ooh, clouds are looking bad. I kid you not, guys. I had to drive 2 miles, like maybe 2.5. 2.5 miles. I get over there. It's like somebody just unzipped the sky. It was so crazy. And I think that, yeah, it cooled down here. It's colder here today than it was yesterday. All right, so Druid's got roasting hot. Oh, good thing you have your HVAC, guys. Yeah, my mom had to have some HVAC stuff recently. And isn't it always like it always happens when it's turned suddenly really hot and your AC doesn't work, or it's suddenly very cold and your heat doesn't work. It's always like that. Okay, blustery in Reno. Oh my gosh, 70 miles an hour. Well, that'll blow you the hair right off your head. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Robin's got the March March went out like a lion then, right? Oh my goodness. So I don't think I have a whole lot to say to you guys kind of as announcements. Don't forget, Jill and I have a Stitch and Glitch on Saturday. It came up fast because of just the way the weeks, like what March had. Did March have 5 Saturdays or something? I was like, there's the way that the calendar worked out. So we're doing another Stitch and Glitch. We will have a guest. It is a friend of ours who will be at Jill's house. So we'll be doing some fun stuff. And yeah, this month is a little bit lower key for me than March was. March and February were, but goodness gracious, like don't acknowledge that because the universe will go, oh, you got nothing to do here. Let me give you some things to do. Am I right? So I do have one thing to show you before we get to what I have planned. I made this little itty bitty spring quilt for a little Easter display that I'm doing. I love to work on my little miniature stuff. You guys know I buy a lot of those little things. And I thought, I'm a maker. I need to make some more like quilty things to go with my little miniatures. And I thought, when I came back from Winterthur, my head was so full to bursting. And I thought, I do have 2 large gallery worthy projects I'm working on. But I thought, a little applique, this will take me long. And this piece of the backing of the quilt itself was actually trimmed off of one of my other quilts. And so I thought, it's already pre-quilted. I just had to add some extra lines to it to make them smaller, right? So I thought this will take me no time at all. You guys, I don't know if I fell into like I don't know, a sloth dimension. This took me so long. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Part of it possibly because it was already a quilted piece of fabric. And so when I did this applique, I had to be very careful to not go through the back, so that was probably part of it, slowed me down some. But anyway, I'm pretty happy with it. It was very like folk art, tulips, no real plans. I kind of whacked a little pattern out and just put that together. So anyway, it was fun, but goodness gracious. Feels like the little things take even longer than big things do. Oh gosh, Drew, at 80 degrees and 57% relative humidity. Oh goodness. Uh, you know, I don't I never want to blast service people because they work hard, but I feel like contractors, like my mom has had the worst time with contractors. Back in the I don't know, it's probably been 15 years ago. We had some trouble. Contractors coming by, roofing contractors. You guys know I live in an old house and it has a pretty steep pitch for the roof, but I never thought of it as if it's anything that was like so out of the normal, but I guess because we originally had a tin roof and we had that removed and put architectural shingles on, we had contractors like literally come to our house, turn right around and say nope and leave. And then there's the ones that just never return your call. That is so irritating. I realize that, sometimes businesses get like really busy and stuff, but they could have the common decency just to call and say, hey, can't help you. We're like really busy, or whatever. Anyway, I guess easy for me to say I'm not a contractor. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know, Druid. I needed somebody a month ago. Yeah. And I often wonder, back in my corporate days of educational technology, I was doing some work for the trades. So, construction, electricians, etc. And I know they really, there for a minute, were having a lot of trouble with getting younger folks coming through. Um, I almost feel like my generation, there were probably a lot less people that went through trade type training than say my dad's generation. My dad was a blue collar worker. And no, now I think the trades are really trying to recruit younger folks because these older guys like have retired and come out of retirement, just to keep people and their stuff running, you know? Yeah. You know what? The humidity and the refrigerator was something I fought for the longest time, before I got my new fridge last year. Yeah. You open it up and it's like suddenly it's like you got all the condensation. Yeah. All right. So we are going back to Winterthur, and I don't have a whole lot of pictures, but they're cute small things. And if you're with me on Monday, you saw some of the, just quick things I took pictures of to show off. Tuesday night, Jill and I did kind of an overview with the two of us. So her pictures are kind of better than mine. So go watch that if you didn't get a chance to see it, because I think that kind of give you like a little bit more information about, us being there and what we did and so on and so forth. But as we were on our whirlwind little trip, I was quickly trying to snap pictures of cute small things, because Winterthur has some cute small things. Oh, you know what? Yes. Having a trade is the way to go. Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that Gen X, we were told, go to college. You need a college degree. You can't get a job without a college degree. And I think that for most of my career, that's absolutely true. It doesn't matter to people that I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts. Like for the longest time, they would be like, oh, you worked full time during college? Wow, that shows you must have like a good work ethic. We'll hire you. And it always shocked me because I was like, I mean, it's just the college degree. It has nothing to do with the topic I studied. And then when I got my master's, then it was like, oh my goodness. Of course it was in the topic, in educational technology that I was seeking jobs in. But yeah, I think at this point, I mean, colleges have gotten a bad rap, especially the humanities. So I think it is good to have a trade, something at the very least, even if it's something that you do like more as a hobby or a sideline, being able to make things with your hands. And, I'm preaching to the choir here. I would say the vast majority of us know how to make things with our hands. We sew, we're quilters, or some type of sewing. But yeah, I feel like people need to get back in touch with handmade, or being able to do things with your hands. And I mean, I don't want to go down the AI rabbit hole right now, but I think it's going to become far more important, y'all. I mean, as we are inching closer to who knows what singularity, I don't know, the advanced AI, who knows if that's ever coming, but I think being able to make things, I mean, AI can't come in and rewire your electricity. AI can't, clean a clog out of your kitchen sink, right? It's people that have learned trades and know how to safely do those things that, oh, right. Yeah. Okay. So Robin's saying somebody who earned a master's in library science and is working as a manager for a big box warehouse. How many people do I know like that? Yes. I think, when I was in school, I mean, I was getting a fine arts degree, and like, what do you do with that? You either are a studio artist, or you teach, or you choose another career, which is what I did. Very briefly, I had enough credits where I could have swapped things out, and um, I mean, I technically have a minor in art history, although I didn't pursue it like on my diploma, because at that point I was just like, I need to get the hell out of here. I was like, I got to move on to the rest of my life and not worry about college anymore. But I kind of was on the fence about, should I turn this into an art history degree? And I was looking at museum governance. I was so fascinated by that. Essentially what they said is, museum governance is very interesting and very important, but you pretty much have to wait for people to die to get the jobs in the museums. So I think my generation, like, there was kind of a swath of us that, if you weren't able to get a job early on after school, you never got a job. And it's the millennials and younger folks coming in after us that, because the generation before me is now retiring. And so, like, my generation got skipped, and for some of these, some of these things. And I think that, the librarians are yet another thing. I know some people that are, work in library science. They're either research librarians, or, some of these. I have a friend who's at a university, and I'll be honest, I don't know what she does. It's actually very scientific, although it's in the library. So I'm not sure that, I just don't know enough about it, but yeah, they were jobs I think people wanted and maybe got education in, and you just have to wait for somebody to retire or die or whatever. And libraries, I mean, libraries as a thing, we read digitally. We listen to audiobooks. I mean, I'm the first one. I don't have time to pick up a book and read it, outside of the stuff we do for quilt nerding, right? So I listen to library books, popular books, novels, etc., while I sew. I don't really watch TV as much. I listen, and that's changed the landscape of libraries. What do research librarians do now that we can sometimes do research as simply on, just Google? Like, I think we can find Google information on Google that 20 years ago a research librarian would have, spent maybe the better part of a day helping you find, maybe, I don't know. Things change. They really do. I've been looking at some kind of futuristic stuff. Of course, my YouTube algorithm, I guess I've watched too much like alien conspiracy stuff. My future, when I search for things like what's next with AI, and what's coming up in our future, I get all kinds of crazy conspiracy theory stuff, and I'm like, I need to have a word with the algorithm. I need less of that and more like serious, like, are probably real conspiracy theories. But anyway, all right, let's look at some Winterthur. Reset passwords and help people log into their platforms all day long. Ah, goodness. Yes. All right. So a couple of things in here are actually children's furniture and things, but I consider them to be miniature. They are. So I think as I told you guys on Monday and Jill and I talked about on Tuesday, um, the big house at Winterthur, the mansion, there you pay your entrance fee and you can go in there and do like a self-guided tour. And I mean, you could spend a lot of time on that. And they have the docents throughout that, if you want to hear stuff, if you want to ask them questions, they're there for you. But the guided tours, which is what we did next with our friend Matt, he's the associate curator of textiles, Linda Eaton, associate curator of textiles. He took us kind of on this whirlwind tour of the next floor that is not available to you unless you're on a guided tour. And we were running out of time. That's the thing. It was just, there's only so much time in the day. So we were kind of moving quickly. So there were little nooks and crannies and corridors and things that I could have spent hours looking at that I just didn't get to because, we were moving so quickly. I have no idea exactly where this was. This was between rooms. It was this little corridor. Like we're kind of going down, I think, like a main corridor, or we're walking between rooms at this point. And I mean, you could see this big door here. I don't think we came through that door. We just passed this. It was a little corridor. And this is shell art. And it's dark in there, so it's kind of hard to get a good picture. And so I realize it's difficult to tell like exactly what this is, but it is shell art. This was very popular with the ladies, the well-to-do ladies. I think I've showed you guys pictures like kind of way back. Oh goodness, a few years ago, I went to the Penn Dry Goods show at the Schwenkfelder up in Pennsburg, southeastern Pennsylvania. And there was a woman there who was working. I can't remember if I think it was her graduate work. I don't think she was a doctoral candidate. I think it was just her graduate work. But she was able to work it was a smaller museum in Philadelphia, and they had one of these shellwork boxes, and they were, it was time for them to do some conservation on it. And so she was lucky enough as part of her graduate work to be able to work on the conservation, to pitch into the conservation. So I learned a lot more about these kind of things when I listened to her lecture. And it kind of surprised me because I don't know, I had always thought of these things as like, oh, sailors' Valentines, the little seashell things, and they put this stuff together, and probably Victorian era, and like all of that is wrong. I mean, there were sailors' Valentines. That's a whole separate thing. This was just, I mean, think about any of the pastimes that rich ladies had. And I mean, we're going back into like the 18th century, late 1700s. They were making this kind of stuff. Ladies of leisure, women that, had a staff. They could spend time making things instead of like doing work. They could get all of the supplies for this. Apparently they were advertised in the newspapers. I remember that lecture I saw, she showed us like a newspaper advertisement from like the 1790s or something that, was talking about, come to this cellar. This cellar has all of these different seashells and things. And they used wax and, other materials in there, wires and stuff, to make these little, whatever you call them, little niches, dioramas, whatever. This one is just a whole bunch of flowers. The one that I saw in the lecture was actually a scene of a little house, and it was like a little house on a hill, and it was so very interesting, the work this woman had put into it. But in the event, I mean, you're literally looking at little bitty seashells and seashell parts, and I'm guessing like some of this in here is like kind of like some mossy, sort of stuff that, it's some other stuff. But you can see back in here the roses. I mean, those are like just itty bitty little bivalve shells, that they've put around like some sort of base, and like using wax, to hold these things down. So I was like, I need to get a picture of that. And of course, it's very dark. You can see the exit sign reflected in in the glass of this thing. But also, check this out. Look at this tiny little piece of furniture. This type of furniture, and I know that it has a famous maker name, but I have no idea. You see these things, you can look at furniture catalogs today, like the Ethan and Allen stuff, and it'll tell you, this is I don't know, a Hebblewhite reproduction or whatever. I don't know exactly what these, if there were famous makers of these things. But it's a particular style, late 1700s, early 1800s. I mean, just, your standard colonial rich person sort of stuff. And the fact that they made it small, could have been like a shop sample, I don't know that they necessarily had like traveling salesmen for things like this, but it could have been a sample, or it could have been a child's toy. There was at least one thing we saw similar to this, but in another room, where they said, our friend Matt said, yeah, that's probably not a child's toy. It's just a small version of this bigger cabinet. But in any event, I just thought, random little high boy just sitting there. I love it. And I think the next picture is a better close-up. Not really a better close-up, but a close-up nonetheless of this. Gosh, you could see back in there. I mean, this thing is like chock full of these little flowers. See, this might be a little bit better. Yeah, I think this is kind of like some sort of like dried, mossy type stuff. That's kind of tucked in there. If that's original, my goodness, I can imagine that's pretty old. There's a number of museums, I think, that have these types of things. I think they're probably difficult to conserve, because they get a little warm and the wax melts. They're probably easily disturbed if they're moved, just because of all the little things in there. Anyway, I thought it was cool. And this is not the only one they have there. I think there was another one that was, I think, in the self-guided tour. So it was like across a room. Like I couldn't walk up close to it because they had, areas roped off where you just look. you don't touch with your eyes. You look. Okay, so this again, throughout the hallways and stuff, they will have cabinets of things. It's almost like open storage in a way. And this happened to be an area that had these little things, and I just quickly snapped this picture. I honestly didn't even really look extremely closely at what is in here, but now I'm seeing, oh, gorgeousness. Okay. So we have little tiny mirrors. We have these little colonial caned chairs, those woven rush seats. And then this little 4-poster bed has a coverlet, be like a woven coverlet. It's got the cutouts for the posters. That's, a very old thing, right? When you see the cutouts for the posters, generally in life-size quilts and coverlets, those cutouts on the corners tell you very likely New England, our northern part of the East Coast. And the bigger the quilt, the older it is. And those are just kind of generic things. I mean, it's not to say that that type of thing wasn't made elsewhere, or that giant quilts weren't made elsewhere, but or more modern times. But the older quilts had to accommodate the thickness of feather beds and mattresses stuffed with who knows what, corn husks, all kinds of stuff. So they were big and floofy, and so these covers had to cover them, and they've certainly reflected this, in my opinion, in these little, especially this one over here with the quilt. Definitely looks like it's got some loft to it. But look at these little 4-poster beds. I mean, this would have been turned, right? Put on a lathe, like I guess it's a lathe, turn and lathed. same process that they do for like the big stuff, but they're doing it on this itty bitty tiny scale. I mean, the effort that goes into that. So this here, oh, that's a tiny rocking chair. I wasn't sure what that was at first. And then these, I'm sure you guys know what they are. But it was funny. We overheard somebody asking if they were like popcorn makers or something, or somebody said something like that, like, oh, they're popcorn makers. Like, no, they put coals in these things and they'd pass them under the sheets to warm up the bed before you climbed in. That's what those are for. Okay, this little level. Okay, here's another one of those high boys. They had so many of these things there. That is just a very, I guess, you know, the wealthier homes had these like big chest of drawers, and some of them are so tall that you would need a step stool to get up to the top drawers. Some of them kind of they're graduated. The piece on the top is sort of the smallest. And I think in some cases, if I understood this correctly, some of these things, particularly like this other one, like this one, the big life-sized like the big human-sized ones, I think these were actually in parts, possibly, because they have handles on the sides of them. So in addition to like the brass, the brass drawer pulls and such, they would have these brass drawer pull type handles on the sides. And I noticed several pieces of furniture that had those on multiple spots, and so it kind of made me think maybe these things come apart into multiple pieces. If they don't, my guess is those handles are really just to help the multiple people that would pick this up to carry it, to move it. But I'm kind of, it's kind of my suspicion that some of these things might come apart into multiple pieces. What else is here? Well, I mean, I guess the rest of this is kind of your standard. The chaise lounge. I love the idea of a chaise lounge. I don't have one. I've always wanted one, to lie about and faint on. Teeny little box, a little band box. Look at that. They would make those for hats or for just storing things, I guess, but a lot of times they're for hats. And they would cover them with wallpaper. Sometimes the insides of them are covered with newspaper. The Shelburne Museum in Vermont, apparently, Electra Havermeyer collected them, and she's got, she had like a whole room of them, right? Druid has a chaise lounge to faint upon. I think everybody should have a chaise lounge to just be dramatic about, Look at all these chairs. Okay, so these little chunky ones, whoops. So these little chunky ones here, I have a chair like that for Abe Lincoln, my Babraham. Babraham has his own chair like that. And I stole it from my mother's house. It is not an antique. It's definitely a reproduction, but it looks just like these. And this, the little, I can't remember what these chairs are called. They've got like the hoop shaped back, and then the long skinny things. And then they'll have these like, it's almost like support beams that kind of come out, and the seat comes to like a sort of a rounded point in the back. And I guess that's, so when you're leaning back, these chair pieces are all very slender. And I guess that those support pieces are there just to keep the whole thing from going crash and breaking. Also, these barrel type chairs, we saw some of these like on life size, that it's almost like, it hugs you when you sit down in it. Such precious little things. I love it so much. Okay. Oh, I did get some close-ups. Look at this little coverlet. I mean, this looks just like a woven coverlet, a life-size woven coverlet. I mean, this has been woven by somebody on a little loom, just like the real deal. Isn't that amazing? I have to say and we've looked at the dolls' houses from that are in Europe and in the UK. And it's amazing to me that the work and effort that, these craftsmen would put in these things. And it's just essentially just a toy. Although, the dolls of this period, they had those, and I'm sure you guys have seen them. In fact, there's the one really famous one. There were those fashion dolls that they would send from Europe, decked out in what is the current, Paris fashions. And women could look at these dolls and their wardrobes and decide, like, oh, I want to order, that dress and the underpinnings and stuff to go with it. So I don't know if some of this stuff might have been kind of like that too. This is the kind of furniture we can make for you to, so that maybe not necessarily toys, but again, like salesman samples, in the sense that these were more easily brought to somebody to say, like, okay, you want to furnish your country house, your country mansion, these are this is the type of stuff we can do. I think that's a possibility as well. I really just don't know. Although, also can imagine a wealthy child having these little things to play with. This is, I mean, it's a wild goose chase. But you can see they're they're a little wonky. And then also has this dust ruffle. That's kind of cute. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, you know what? Some of these metal pieces, like the candlesticks, and I don't know if this is some type of, it's a candlestick or a lamp, like an oil lamp maybe. That stuff is made out of the real deal too. It's not like they had plastic back in the in the 18th and 19th century. Oh, and this is a better look at the chaise lounge. I mean, it's got like the look that it's really upholstered. And it's also interesting, they chose a fabric, I think, that scales well for this tiny thing. You can imagine this thing being big and that fleur-de-lis sort of flowery. I think these are called arabesques or something like that. You could see that larger size and it would look normal. That's very cool. Oh, look at these little Chinese vases back here. They have a whole room at the Winterthur that's got like a bunch, like a Chinese day bed, bunch of things in it that were collected from somewhere. It's a very tiny room, but they had some kind of interesting stuff. This is a case where they dragged me away from it. I barely got a picture. And it's like a mishmash of things. Like I see things in here that are small, but I don't know. Like, is it? I mean, this stuff over here seems more like. I mean, this is transferware. It seems like a dessert set, right? Like I don't know that this is actually like a miniature set, but I guess it could be. I guess these things are just small. These are little plates and things. Oh my gosh, these look like little, I can't even tell what that is. It's so dark in there that my camera didn't get good details. Little glass pieces. Okay, some of this stuff has to be for like a doll's house or something. This stuff is way too tiny. Oh, but look, there's a sad iron, right? And a sad iron being the kind of iron that you have to put in the fire, or it has to sit on some type of brazier or something to heat up because they didn't have electricity. What? Oh, these look like little books. Okay. And then these things down here, I guess, are like kind of another mishmash. There's these baskets. And then these look like various fireplace and cooking things. That's a mold of some sort. And then these little kettles. Yeah, sad iron. Yeah, I have a couple of sad irons as well. And I'm sure that I've showed you guys my irons before. Um, or maybe Jill and I did something when we were back when we were doing needlework nights. I have one that is coal burning. It literally opens up, you put coal in it, and you latch it back together, and it has a chimney for the coal to keep smoking. Oh my goodness. What is this? I can't tell what that is, but I'm wondering if it could be a pincushion or something. That's probably wishful thinking. Although we do have the sad iron and what looks like a little broom. Oh my gosh. You know what I would give to just like be able to sit down and open these cabinets and just like look at every little thing and play with it. Um, this up here looks like a little casket of like silverware. I'm assuming it's silver plate or sterling. I don't know. But the little pieces of furniture just like blew me away. Oh, here's some redware that it's very popular in Pennsylvania, I think. I mean, these would have to have been made by a metal worker. These little metal pieces. I mean, these things have to have been made by the same sort of craftspeople that made the big size, right? I, you know, and at this time period, people didn't have a hobby of metalsmithing or or furniture making. Like you either did that or you did something else. Oh, look at this. I just realized this. It's a little like a wall sconce for a candle that made of tin. And all of these little lamps. And see now these I don't see as being anything. This is not miniature. This is just a group of small lamps and things. So I would call this open storage, just sort of in a hallway where they have some cabinets. And they've kind of grouped things by, what they have in that category. Okay. So this is another like nooks and crannies galore in this place. And I think in some cases it's just the way that they've kind of had to split space up, in modern times for, offices and storage and all that kind of stuff. And in other cases, I think this is just what you get when you turn a 50-room mansion into a 175-room mansion and then make it into a museum. I think you just get some odd little nooks and crannies. But what you can see here, can you imagine? I don't know about you guys, but I would, in my closet, I'd push all the clothes to one side, as far over to the side as I could get them. And I'd go in there and I'd have like a little cubby hole that I'd play in. I'd have, I'd write my journal in there. I do very important things in there. And that's what this reminds me of. It's a little nook and cranny for a child to go in and, just play there. And I don't think I got, I might have a picture. The next picture might be what this chair is. But a lot of these things are very finely made. I mean, you can see. And this is I think kind of it's in a child's room as we're going into a child's bedroom. It's kind of a little cubby hole, I think. Ah, yes, okay. I did get further in there. Yeah, so you can see we're up at the upper levels of the mansion. As you can see this open, the wood beams. And an old heating system. I think this is built over a radiator. But yeah, look at these little chairs and a little tea set. Oh, how charming. And on top of this little chest, these itty bitty little pieces of pottery and porcelain, I guess, porcelainware. That one looks like it's little people. I mean, I could thoroughly picture this stuff life size, like big people sized. Miniatures are often not like that today. you don't have this fineness that, a lot of times miniatures, dollhouse miniatures and stuff are kind of clunky and clumsy because it's hard often to scale down like fabrics um and things. And there are some really incredible miniatures makers that I follow them on social media. They make beautiful, amazing things. And they take the time to source all of these like very fine materials. So this is like a little couch. Um, I would say that's more of like a later 19th century piece, I would think. But I would just love to play in this little nook. All right, this is yet another nook. I think this is on the other side. Excuse me, my voice is. The other part of this crazy weather, my allergies. I woke up this morning, my eyes were all itchy, and all poofy. Look at this fine carving, painting on this. I realize it's a really fuzzy pictures here, but I mean, you get the gist of this. You can see what these things are. So teeny tiny. And then also you could kind of see out the window here, it's the tree out here is, I think, starting its spring flowering. So okay, so this was definitely one of the children's bedrooms, and I had switched my phone to a wide view. So some of these are kind of wonky. I realized after the fact, I was like, oh man, I should have changed my my phone back to the right view, but it's like the 0.6, it's like a fisheye almost. So unfortunately, some of these pictures are kind of wonky looking, but I imagined that this little scamp inhabited this room. Although I do not think this is a portrait of the child that lived there, but nonetheless, I thought he looks like he's up to something. And then what is this? I don't know. Is this the... I can't tell what that says. I don't think that's Winterthur, but I don't know. I don't think it is. I think it's some sort of little needlework image. Of course, you can see this little bed. This little bed is so cute. It is like truly a toddler's bed. I think today when you move your child out of a crib into a bed, there's kind of two choices. There's the toddler's beds, which are kind of like a diminutive. They're kind of almost like a crib without sides. They're small. Or you have a single bed, which is pretty much like what I think every child moves to. Or, you get some kids that would move to a full-size bed. This was of none of those dimensions. Like, nothing was standardized at that point. So this little bed, I mean, I could truly see a small child sleeping in this bed. And look at the little chair back here. Little wingback chair. Oh, and this little chest. Oh my goodness. This, of course, let's see. There's a little toy here. It looks like a little... Its arms and legs are jointed so that it, I guess could be sort of one of those things that called jumping jacks. That's kind of what it looks like, but the string here at the top makes it look like it's just supposed to hang. And I don't know what these two things are. The new something. I would assume that these are like primers, something scholastic. I would note this rug is not period appropriate. But it looks good in here. So I think sometimes they'll make decisions like that. These rugs are much later than the rest of the furnishings here. But can you imagine some little child sitting in this chair, and then this little tiny chair is about the size of like, for a doll, or something. And then their little bed, and then this little chair. Oh, so cute. I think this is the other side of the room. So you've literally got this what could be this child's chest of drawers to put, their clothing and belongings in. And then all of these diminutive chairs, and then this little bed with the, I mean, it's this stuff is exactly what the big size furniture looks like. They took such care and, painstaking, I'm sure, to get this stuff, and the size and the scale of things is very good. They did a really good job. Oh, and a drum. Look at this little drum. Ah. Okay, this, I can't remember if this is in the same, I think this is in the same area. And you see, like, we're up on like the top floor. I don't think this is the tippy top floor. I think there's like some attic space even above this, but you can tell by the vaulted ceilings, that, or, the sloping ceilings that we're at the top of the house. What I got here? What is that? Butterfly net, lacrosse stick. I don't know. I didn't notice that when I was taking the pictures. But look at the little bookshelf, little writing desk. Ah! Oh, I can't even. Little tiny shoes. Oh, goodness. Yeah, I didn't look very closely at this space, but look at all the tiny things. More little shoes. These look like, so balls they're wound with like a string. Is it that they call tamari? I don't know if that's exactly what this is, but that's what it looks like to me. It's been wound with string, in a pattern to make a ball. It might have a core, so it's not like solid string all the way through, but yeah, almost like what are those things we made in camp with the two sticks and you like God's eye, where you and the string goes round and round and round, and you add different colors. And I think, that's kind of the same theory. You're wrapping in different directions. I think that's what that is. Oh my gosh. I wonder what this is. Is this some type of game or toy? I don't know. Oh, this little child. It could be a boy, quite possibly a boy, but also maybe a girl. Recently kind of played a game, a friend that does a lot of needlework tools and things like that. She posted a picture. It was a painted portrait of a family, and I think there are three children two or three children in the picture. And the thing you have to remember about this time period is boys wore dresses until they were probably 5 or 6, or 6 or 7. When they were breeched, meaning put in breech pants, so like knee-length pants. But they wore dresses and really kind of indistinguishable from girls, often in these paintings, unless there's some kind of clue. This kid is dressed in blue, and blue at that time was a girl's color. Very interesting thing, especially if you ever run into a man who refuses to wear pink because it's a girl's color, just laugh at him, because pink for girls and blue for boys has only been a thing since like the early to mid 20th century. And I've heard this story many times, so I don't think it's an old wives' tale. I do think that there is the historians that have told this story have the receipts to prove it, I believe. But the blue was considered like, often in paintings and portraits, you'd see the Virgin Mary clothed in blue. And so that was the feminine blue, was like the pale blue was considered very feminine, heavenly. And pink is considered diminutive red. So like baby red. And red is a strong, bold color for men. This is not to say that red and blue aren't interchangeable, but that's the gist of this. And when you look at paintings and symbology, blue equals girls, pink equals boys. And it was supposedly the earlier 20th century, uh, retailers such as Sears said, let's offer baby stuff, children's stuff in opposite colors. So now they have to go buy new versions. I think that was the gist of it. That there was a bit of a campaign by merchants to switch it up in the 20th century. So this would have been like sort of World War II-ish, pre-war, maybe pre-war a little bit. But yeah, that's the story. So I go back to men who refuse to wear pink. Just laugh at them. They are ignorant of their history. They should not refuse to wear pink because it is for girls. They should refuse to wear pink because it is for babies. All right, so this is the little bed again. And you could see more. Look, there's some other little toy here. What is this? Looks like looks kind of broom-like. I don't know if that's what that is or not. If that's... Oh gosh, I could have just stayed in this room forever looking at all, like, just sit down on the floor and crawl around and look at all the little things. I mean, this bed truly, I mean, think about the size of a toddler. That's what this bed was, custom made for a child that size. I also loved, and there was several like just regular size beds that had these, their canopies were not the standard, like chintz drapery, but rather these netted, or I would assume that in some cases they were like crocheted, or could have been also the netting, which is a separate type of knot making. There were these netted things over the beds, and typically they were on the canopies that were curved at the top. I think Jill showed one of them. Jill either posted one on Quilt Nerding social media, or we showed one the other night. Those are the ones I really like. Those are the ones that I'm really into, and I think they would have been later, like early 19th century, probably, maybe even into the mid 19th century, because I think that's more of a decorative look than your tester bed, which has like kind of straight, like almost a valance around it, and then the curtains that hang down. Those were. I mean, there was a point to that. That was not just decorative. The ability to close those drapes or pull them closed a little bit would help maintain some heat inside the bed. And that goes way back. I mean, I'm sure I had pictures, and you've seen pictures of, in Europe and the UK, of beds back into antiquity that had that same, those same bed hangings, because it was about keeping warm. Oh, what else is over here? Just a little bandbox. Oh, somebody's behind busted that chair out. This looks like it might be a little brush or something, a little hairbrush. And this is a pot holder quilt, you guys. I'd forgotten about that. Just interestingly, it's just pillar print chintz. So you see the pillar here, and then all the flowers, and they have cut this chintz up, and then in each square, and these are probably like 12-inch squares, maybe a little smaller, 10-inch squares, and they have quilted them, bound them, which to me looks like it's the back to the front. It's because you can see a little bit of the backing here. It's just a plain, like, off-white muslin type of fabric. So back to front, bound each one, and then sewed them together. And you get the split for the posters by 3 at the bottom, and then 5 across. So you've got 5 across, and then just 3 at the bottom for the split. Interesting use of the pot holder technique, because when we looked at, and this would be over on Quilt Nerding, where we read Portable Patchwork by Pam Weeks, And we interviewed Pam, and then we also hosted a lecture by Pam. Typically, the potholder quilts, each block was different. They were album quilts, or multiple hands were involved. This tells me this was just a project by one person. Could be multiple people, but really by one person, just to get this made, probably in a small scale. Um, that it wasn't about a bunch of women going off and making their own thing and coming back together. This was probably about the utility of being able to quilt on a square that's small versus this whole coverlet. Okay, I can't remember where this was, but these are high chairs. And I've seen these before. I've seen ones that have little tray too that came across. This strikes me as just, you push it up to the table if the child was going to sit at the table. I want to say this again was just sort of in like, you're walking down a corridor, there's all these little sort of niches. And if you've ever toured any kind of old house, this is, nothing odd to have these little niches. But I think that a lot of this for the Winterthur is it's visible storage. It's not placed in a way that it's displayed, or it's not placed in a way that is recreating a particular room, but rather like items have been grouped together and placed here, as just a pleasing looking vignette when you walk past it. So this is up there on that same floor. This is a different child's area because this is a different bed, but this little diminutive fireplace, and then look at these end irons. These little, they look like Chinese warriors. These little andirons. And more things like fireplace accoutrements. The bed warmer, and then this, like, I guess like a whisk broom kind of thing. And what is on there? Okay, so this up here, you've got like this, I guess, an angel. And then these guys just look like some type of like workers, I guess. I would say that the andirons and this don't go together. I may be wrong, but I kind of suspect they don't go together, but they look good together, right? Yeah. And then what have we got? I didn't look that closely at this. This looks like some kind of, okay. It's some deeply carved, but almost more primitive, right? This isn't like super fine carved, like those big cherry wood and walnut chests and things. This is a little bit more of like, more simple workshop of, and I would assume that there is a style here. I don't know if this is like a federal style, very plain. The federal style would have been sort of, well, I really think like turn of the century, so like 1800, right, just after the Revolutionary War to like, I think there's like sort of another period in there that the historians might use, but I guess it could go up to the Civil War in theory. And then this is more like redware, or these earthenware pots that are, I think they're made with like red clay, and then the glazed. They're very popular in Pennsylvania, I think. And then this is this very, this is like kind of a, not toll painting. That's not the right word for it. I guess just this sort of primitive painted stuff. Yeah. Interesting. And then this little bed. Oh, look at that. um, lovely Irish chain. And I think what is really interesting to point out here is that you can see little bit of cross stitch here on the pillowcases. And my guess is that's not decorative. Or I mean, it is pretty, it's not ugly, but not super decorative. It's more of a laundry mark. So you know whose bed that goes on. And this appears to be like a big bolster, a long bolster back here. And again, this is a small bed. This is like, toddler sized. Look at the little trunk. Oh. Oh, and this chair is very cool. It's like a corner type chair, it's curved. This is a petticoat that's just hanging there. I feel like this is probably like an adult sized or, teenage girl sized petticoat. This is not for a child. I think this might be another one of those spaces that's a little bit of a catch-all. But this little pitcher and basin for, washing up. I don't know that would necessarily be specifically for a child's room, but it's very interesting looking. I don't know anything about pottery and things, but you could see this is like kind of like a modeled, almost like a faux marble or something. It's kind of like a pinky red and green, and I think that's the glaze. And there is a name for this. Something ware, right? Tutti Frutti ice cream ware. I don't know. So that's interesting. Oh, look at this. I didn't even see this. It's like some type of little niche with this little half lady in there. What on earth is that? Some piece of ironware. Okay, Kate. Yeah, Kate, you know a little bit about pottery, don't you? Did your mom collect pottery? Or am I mixing you up with somebody else? Yeah. So ironware. I know I've heard that term. So yeah. And I also did have to appreciate, like, if you're looking at this thing here, this is obviously like a more modern heating system here. There's probably a radiator under there, is my guess. Right. So you have a full-sized one that's white though. Yeah, okay. I think this like kind of spattery stuff, it's not spatterware because it's not spattered. It's kind of blobby, but I've seen this before. So I know it's a specific variety for sure. Was this a picture? Yeah, this is a picture. I thought maybe it was a little mirror, but it looks like a lady in a fancy outfit, and this looks like it might be another person sitting. But she's got a little umbrella, a little parasol, right? The quilt, though. Let us not skip over the quilt. It is some chintz, some lovely cut up chintz. So yeah, really pretty. And I mean, I just love how they did this with, this border is separate, different, but it's but the same, it's the same where you're stacking these blocks up and then offsetting them. Yeah, definitely. Some very small prints. And then this brown one, I'm not sure if that's just I think that's just a brown, like a brown print. I'm not so great at dating, but I guess this is probably like early 1800s, I would guess. I think that brown print would probably be the giveaway. Tell me I'm wrong, folks. when Matt was not able to give us dates on every last thing we saw, so entirely possible I'm very wrong about the date on that. Okay, this is where my phone was still in that oddball mode, so it's all wonk. So there was another textile hanging here. I don't know if this is like a, I don't think this is a petticoat. This looks like it's got something printed on it. So I'm wondering if this was just some kind of bag or something. But you can get a better look at this petticoat here. Very, very pretty print. Very common dress print. So this is the other side of this little nook. So the bed is right here. And there's that jug and bowl. This I'm assuming is that a bottle tree? I don't know what this is. It seems like a bottle tree to me, but it's like, look at the little finial. I mean, this, whatever this thing is, it's very finely made. You could convince me of anything about this thing. The only other thing I've seen like this that I is identifiable to me is the metal things that look like that, and it's for drawing bottles. So I don't know if it doesn't make sense to me that that's what that is, but it's certainly what it looks like. So I don't know. Maybe it's for drawing something else. Anyway, this could possibly be a little sewing box, or it could be a jewelry or treasure box. Yeah, but this is just another one of those little nooks that I'm like, oh, can I just bring the toys and play in there? just sit in there and I'll play. I'll be quiet. I won't bother anybody. Okay. So, kind of our very last stop was in one room in a storage area. Matt brought us in to show us something specific, and then across from us, he said, "Oh yeah, you probably know this." So Druid says clothes tree. So do you think, I mean, would that just be for hanging like clothes to dry? I mean, it seems like they would sort of overlap each other. I don't know. You could convince me of anything. Now he did not take this out for me. I think because it's packed up. It's got gloves. Okay. I was sitting there thinking to myself, mittens, socks, gloves. Yeah. Okay. I would suppose in an area where, you know, it's cold, there's snow at times. Yeah. The smaller articles of clothing make sense. Okay. But I think the way this thing is packed in here probably was not going to be easy to just open and take apart. But if you have the most recent issue of Quilt Folk, which is Delaware, this little bed, Matt standing right there in front of this with this box open and the bed out, you will see this. So Druid says just to hang clothing, period, because old houses didn't have, yeah, that's true, the closet space. Yeah. Yes, from my own home. Exactly. I've got a one original closet in here, and it had to have just been for, you know, stacking stuff on a shelf or something, because it's not even as deep as a coat hanger. So yeah. And so Kate says she's seen something like that in ski houses. Yeah, I mean, that does make sense to me. It's almost like a little coat tree. But I guess what, and let me go back. We'll come back to this. I guess the part that has me is like, you've got these all the way down at the bottom too. And then they're really long up here. So, I mean, is it larger sizes of something up here? And then, I don't know. It's very specific though, I'm certain. Okay. So again, Quilt Folk, Delaware issue. There is an image of Matt standing in this room with the bed in front of its storage space. So, this one is quite fine. You could see in its little picture. It's got these very fancy bed hangings. Although it's interesting, I'd said the curved canopy seemed to be for those netted and crocheted ones. This one is, curved with those very fancy, gathered up curtains. But but you can see like the little bitty pillows with their pillowcases, and then there's like a bolster back here that's the quilt is tucked in, and this lovely little quilt, and it's a medallion quilt, because you can see whatever it is here. I can't remember how well you can see it in the picture of Quilt Folk, but yeah, it's definitely medallion. But like, what a fine object, you know? So instead of taking out, Matt said I could choose some other things to look at. And this is one he pulled out. They are, I guess it's like Old Woman in the Shoe, and it's a sculptural thing. I don't know that it's a plaything necessarily. I really, I don't know what these are for other than just a sculptural thing. But this is what these seem to be. They're two different Old Woman in the Shoe objects. I don't know what else to call it, because I mean, you've got this doll that seems to be a lady, and then you've got all these teeny things that seem, I would assume, to be children. They look more like children over here. Here they look like small versions of her. And then you've got this kind of larger guy here. But they look like they're carved wood, this one. They seem to be carved wood. And then this one, I can't tell whether, I feel like these are actually some type of fabric that maybe has been painted. I can't tell very well. That, like, they've got weird little cloth arms. And in this case, I don't know, this guy's got sort of like a long staff or something. And like, are they using the shoe as like a boat? I don't really know what to make of these other than they are strange and wonderful. And I took this picture just that you could see, you know, these are like the in situ photographs. You could see the whole thing. It really truly looks like this guy has like a fishing pole. So I'm thinking that in this case, this one, the shoe is a boat, perhaps. I just love oddball things, right? Like this is the pinnacle of weirdness to me. And then of course, this was them on the shelf from whence they came. Miniature dolls in a shoe. All right. And then this is the last object. It is a topsy-turvy doll. You may have seen the last picture. It was on the shelf next to the shoes. But you can see she's made with some finery. I'm thinking this is a painted face. I don't think that this is quite as old as some of the other objects. This could probably, I don't know, later 1800s is my guess. Maybe turn of the century. I'm not sure. You know, when did these ragdoll type things become popular? I'm not entirely sure, but just based on her face, it's later. But look at the trim on her sleeves, and like it looks like up here on the collar. Lovely little trim. And of course, if you know what a topsy-turvy doll is, you know this gal doesn't have legs. She's got another doll in there. And in this case, of course, it's, you know, the sort of the Aunt Jemima character. So, you know, not, I think what this probably says is mistress and servant, I think is what the gist of this one. But, you know, she's also got, you know, like trim on her sleeves, and the same type of fabric makes her apron as it does the girl. Her face isn't painted as finely. I think that's unfortunate. And also, she's not the primary doll, because if you look at the skirt, the way it is finished here, it's like a French seam, or it's like a couture sewing seam. Like back then, it just would have been no big deal to them, but makers then. But today we look as that as like a couture, because it's folded in and stitched to enclose the raw edges. Most of our clothing today is, serged with a serger. And of course, they didn't have that back then. So they would enclose seams that way. And then the hem itself is turned in. So when this doll, when you flip her over and have her skirt pulled down, you're actually looking at the underside of the skirt. So of course, what that tells me is that the intent was for the white doll to have been the primary doll and this one to be the surprise doll. I think it would have been nice if they'd found a way to, like, something decorative to put on the skirt so that it would have been indistinguishable. Whether, and I mean, the fact that it's gingham's going to look, because of the way it's woven, it's yarn dyed. So gingham doesn't necessarily have a front and a back. So, everything about this fabric is perfect except the finishing. So I think that's unfortunate. But I do, who doesn't love a polka dot? I love her polka dot bodice. And that's the last one. So, like I said, they didn't necessarily have like a whole bunch of, miniature stuff, but they have some. I would say that if they could certainly probably put on a exhibit of children's toys, different eras of children's toys and small, children's furniture and things, very easily in the galleries area. They certainly have a lot of stuff in their collection. So I just loved it so much. I want to go back and spend more time with the tiny things. All right. So we are in the home stretch with Elizabeth Wells Robertson. So let me put you back on my screen here. Okay. We literally have, I think, it's literally like 2 more pages to read. And then we're going to spend some time looking at the pictures because the book, let me go back to me again. The book, it's a thin volume, but literally half of it, this much of it is pictures. So we're going to spend some time on those pictures. We will not get through them all today. I could tell you that. So we'll spend some time on these next week. And, they're all black and white, of course. But I do think that, this is 1948. I do think that, Elizabeth Wells Robertson had, her publisher had access to really good photographs of quilts, or, they were able to go out and get their own pictures. And they're very good pictures. So I know some of the earlier books that we've looked at, the pictures are even kind of fuzzy. But I think that they're pretty, the clarity in here is pretty good. So I think that it will be an enjoyable look. So as a reminder, we are reading American Quilts by Elizabeth Wells Robertson, published in 1948. And I feel like she's got a few inaccuracies in here. But I think by and large, she's gotten a lot of her information from some of the same volumes we've already read. So I think she did a good job with this book. And it's an interesting read, at least. So American Quilts by Elizabeth Wells Robertson. We are reading part 7, which she has entitled Conclusion. She says, as we have seen earlier, the art of making a pieced quilt was just one of the occupations the early housewife indulged in during her rare periods of rest. Between cooking, cleaning house, milking the cows, churning butter, helping on the farm, spinning and weaving cloth, making clothes for the family, and curtains and bedspreads, hooking or weaving rugs, and being just plain mother. Her task was enormous. You said it, sister. Her task was enormous from the early days of colonialization through the Civil War. And beyond. Of course, she's writing this book right at the, post-Civil War, or post-Civil War, post-World War II, 1948. These are, getting into the baby boom era. I guess women were considered to have some more flexibility and not as much work to do then, of course. But we still don't have, as many women like putting careers first. It's, women are still meant to be wives and mothers at this point in time. So, but yes, all this list of things she gave, there's far more. There's far more things that the women of the house were responsible for, whether they were wealthy women who had staff to do this stuff, but they still had to like coordinate and direct the work. Or you're talking about your average, what we would say middle class person, who may have had some help or no help other than their family members, still had all this stuff to do. So at about this time, however, modern industrialism, so this is post-Civil War, modern industrialism began in earnest, and women, as well as men, started to leave the farms and the rural areas for the factories of the towns and cities. It's when we see, the mills up in New England, becoming very, very popular for farm girls to go get jobs there. What happened then to the home crafts, not only in America, but everywhere in the Western world? A few of the old craftsmen remained, mostly in small towns and rural areas, but their products were no longer valued as they used to be. Yeah, it's like these very, very finely wrought handmade things. In one or two of the fine art schools of this country, for instance, directors told their students that the machine was man's best friend and that it was old-fashioned to work with the hands when things could be made so much more quickly mechanically. With this type of thinking, the average American lost much of his respect for handwork. Oh my gosh! Oh. Is that serendipity or what? I started off the stream talking about trades and working with our hands and the importance of that in this day and age with AI. I did not expect Elizabeth to be talking about the same thing. That's wild. Many people still do believe, however, that creative hands can help make the balance between material advance and social progress. Probably many more people than outwardly it appears. And happily, in recent years, there has been a renaissance in American folk art. The start was made way back by the study and collection of the work of the native Indians. Okay, that's interesting. The start was made by the study and collection of Native American artifacts? Okay. Each piece was looked at from a historical point of view and rather as an individual curiosity. Then the interest grew in how each piece was designed. This interest spread to local historical communities and museums who accumulated interesting collections of all early American folk art and exhibited them as examples of native design. Old glass became a vogue, and as people searched their attics, all sorts of hidden treasures presented themselves and were restored. The interest in Americana spread rapidly and steadily. Private collectors began to exhibit their best pieces. The American wings of the museums throughout the country assumed greater importance, and the fashion for home decorating in modified versions of early American became the order of the day. And I think what she's talking about here is the colonial revival of the early 20th century, I think is where she's kind of going with this. And, this is 1948. She's writing this. The Winterthur opened in 1953. 53, 54. So just a few years later. So you definitely have this mindset of people that are, I guess it's become more commonplace for people to look at sort of collecting during this time period. Obviously, the war years would have been like people aren't paying attention to stuff like this. But, from the colonial revival taking place like in the early 20th century into the 1920s, so then you have the Depression, well, and you had World War One, and you have the Depression, and then you have World War Two, and then we're coming out of that with definitely a different mindset, and there's a lot more disposable income at that point. I mean, hence the baby boom. So I think that this idea of collecting and decorating, it really is probably skyrocketing at this point. During recent years, the finest recognition of the folk art of America has been given by the government-sponsored Index of American Design, with headquarters now at the National Gallery in Washington. So this came up during the Depression, where the government literally hired artists, out-of-work artists, to start working on this Index of Design, and we've seen some of these. I know Dr. Dunton had some stuff in his collection that that was specific to Index of American Design Artists, and I want to say we've looked at some stuff at museums. Like there's specifically one woman who was an illustrator, and she made illustrated versions of a whole bunch of different things, like objects and things. But she did some quilts, and these just detailed drawings, and like from a distance you look at it and you really can't tell that it's a drawing. It looks real. It's like photorealism. But as you get up close, you see, oh, that's a drawing of a quilt, not an actual quilt. So that this is kind of, these are the things she's talking about. This is a record largely made up of watercolor renderings of native objects of art, as well as clothing, shoes, even tools and implements, figureheads, and some ships. Many of these have great beauty, but above all, say what this country is. We still find today in America craftsmen and artists, among whom, of course, are the quilt makers working quietly at home, and not very many of them. The era between, well, just World War II, period. So the era between the Depression and the 50s is the war years, and people made quilts during the Depression, and particularly people that were affected by the Depression and were poor. That's where the idea of like really super scrappy, like every little tidbit of cloth that they had salvaged to put into quilts. This is where that idea comes from, that all quilts were like that. It's really the Depression era. Why did I see area? The Depression era. So that's where that mindset comes from. And quilt making, there was kind of this romanticization of quilt making in like early 20th century, of this, like bringing back these colonial designs, these old ways. And then because of the war years, women having to go to work while men are at war, and women keeping households together because men are at war, you don't have as much quilt making. And certainly not for people that don't have to make the quilts. If you have to make a quilt because you need something warm on the bed and you can't afford to buy something, then of course you'd still be making quilts. But a lot fewer quilts were made in the 1940s than were made on either side of that decade. My computer just made a noise. I don't know why. Like something popped up, but I don't know. Okay. The main difference between these people and their forefathers is that they have been liberated from much drudgery of housework by the machine. To what extent this comparative feeling of leisure, the lack of urgency, affects the characteristics of their work will be judged in years to come. Like right now. But the same desire exists among today's craftsmen to express themselves in a useful way and to derive the satisfaction of achievement that only hand craftsmanship can give. Wherever there are quilt makers, the feeling is much like that of Aunt Jane of Kentucky, where she said, you start out with just so much calico, meaning calico. Oh, an incoming message off of Facebook. I think I do have Facebook open in a tab somewhere. So you start out with just so much calico. You don't have to go to the store and pick it out and buy it. But the neighbors will give you a piece here and a piece there. And you will have a piece left every time you cut out a dress. And you take just what happens to come, and that's predestination. But when it comes to cutting out, why, you're free to choose your patterns. You can give the same kind of pieces to two persons, and one will be a 9-patch and one will make a wild goose chase. And there will be two quilts made out of the same kinds of pieces and just as different as they can be. And that is just the way with living. The Lord sends us the pieces, but we can cut them out and put them together pretty much to suit ourselves. And there's a heap in the cutting out and sewing than there is in the calico. Okay. The calico. And Nathaniel Hawthorne must have had quilts or quilting in mind when, in The Marble Fawn, he wrote these lines. And I think this might be just about the rest of this reading, is Nathaniel Hawthorne's words. There is something extremely pleasant and even touching, at least, or a very sweet, soft, and winning effect in this peculiarity of needlework, distinguishing women from men. Our own sex is incapable of any such byplay aside from the main business of life. But women, be they of what earthly rank they may, however gifted with intellect or genius, or endowed with awful beauty, have always some little handiwork ready to fill the gap of every vacant moment. A needle is familiar to fingers of them all. A queen, no doubt, plies it on occasions. The woman poet can use it as adroitly as her pen. The woman's eye that has discovered a new star turns from its glory to send the polished little instrument gleaming along the hem of her kerchief, or to darn a casual fray on her dress. And they have greatly the advantage of us in this respect. The slender thread of silk or cotton keeps them united with the small, familiar, gentle interests of life, and continually operating influence of which do so much for the health of the character, and carry off what would otherwise be a dangerous accumulation of morbid sensibility. A vast deal of human sympathy runs along this electric line, stretching from the throne to the wicker chair of the humblest seamstress, and keeping high and low in a species of communion with their kindred beings. Methinks it is a token of healthy and gentle characteristics when women of high thoughts and accomplishments love to sew, especially as they are never more at home with their own hearts than while so occupied. And when the work falls in a woman's lap of its own accord, and the needle involuntarily ceases to fly, it is a sign of trouble, quite as trustworthy as the throb of the heart itself. It's lovely, but I'm also kind of like, I feel like there's a little patriarchy in there. In conclusion, Elizabeth says, let us repeat Hawthorne by saying that women still are never more at home than with their own hearts, that while they are sewing, in farmhouses in the country, in cabins on the windswept plains, in fine houses surrounded by... I got a cat. In fine houses surrounded by gardens, in apartments in cities, they are still carrying on this art of the American people. They venture into the difficulties and happy surprises of making their own designs. Like their grandmothers and great-grandmothers, they make pictorial use of their own familiar surroundings and their pets. However, they no longer work only with scraps left over, but with all the wealth of materials and color that America today has at their command. And that is the end of the narrative. All right, let's look at some quilts. Time we have, we can get through a few, I think. Actually, we're really going to start off with with fabrics. So this, you guys saw this a whole bunch. This was sort of throughout the narrative. So this is the first picture in the book here in this section. So this section she's calling printed cottons used in quilts. And this is called, this is a toile cotton designed by J.B. Hewitt between 1785 and 1790. And she is attributing this to something that's held at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name of it. It's something de la Ferme. You can see it there. Les Plaisirs, I guess, whatever. But yeah, you can see like what is happening here. We've got a variety of animals. You've got, trying to figure out what's happening here. Some sort of, yeah, there's some sort of industry happening here. There's a boat, you know, there's the cattle. You know, it's like, I guess it's just sort of farm life. And some ducks, a little kid, his dog. Yeah, I think you're safe. We're safe to say this is sort of farm life here. I think that's a goat. I think that's a goat. Like this is another cow of some sort. Steer, boar, I don't know, steer. There's a rooster or a chicken. Okay. And here are two other pieces. So I will read these to you. What they are. This one looks quite old. So the one at the top here is an early example of American printed cotton, 1700 to 1750, woven at Bound Brook, New Jersey. So this is all we know about it. But I mean, this is obviously an attempt at the chintz printing. And I would say not very good compared to what that was coming out of India or France or England. And these are also attributed to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. This one, this is from the William Henry Harrison campaign, a later American printed cotton made in the 19th century in brown on white. Okay, and that's all she says about that one. But this one's interesting because, see, William Henry Harrison. So you could see him here. I'm assuming, right? Yeah, Harrison. Reform. So there he is, looking rather angry. You have this log cabin, which I suspect, you know, the William Henry Harrison campaign, I'm sure was something about him, you know, being, you know, not some high city-born fella, but rather a man of the people, you know, born and raised in a log cabin, I guess. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Was William Henry Harrison was not Tippecanoe, was it? That was another president. But this looks like a very lovely fabric. You know, taken from a distance, you could kind of almost ignore him and just see all these beautiful flowers and the little houses. And it is always interesting to me, these fabrics that have people on them. At the Winterthur, we saw, you know, there's the fabric that's got Lafayette on it. It's very, very famous. It's in a lot of quilts from, you know, from the period. And then draperies that have, you know, both people, just you know, portraits of people and actual presidents on them. There's, you know, they had an absolute obsession with Washington. And so, you know, you'd get Washington and Jefferson or Washington and Adams. Okay, so this one up here at the top. So this is from the Art Institute of Chicago. This is another one that I think is we've probably commonly seen. So this is called The Fall of the Bastille, from a printed cotton piece signed Gordon, sculpt. I'm assuming sculptor. And it is English, circa 1850. So interesting. Not a toile, not a chintz. I'm still getting something popping up. Okay. And then these two down here. So this one is definitely toile. And this one is sort of a hybrid thing, I guess. So this one here on the left is called Le Travaux de la Manufacturer. It is a copperplate print made at Oberkampf, which we remember from our chintz book, about 1784. And then this one there, she's calling this one also a toile, copperplate print made between 1794 and 1800, designed by J.B. Hewitt, and it's The Marriage of Figaro. So, yeah, I guess it's just I guess stylistically, you just see differences between these. And I guess then this one must be considered a toile too. Although she doesn't call this top one a toile. She calls it just a printed cotton. So, okay. This one I got a little bit excited when I first saw it because I zoomed in, my eyeball zoomed in on this horse here in the middle. And there is a toile that Dr. Dunton identified in a quilt and then subsequently went to some type of like antiques and textile show at some point, and very excitedly found a full piece of it. And I think that it was going to be included, and I think he has a picture. There's a picture of it in his collection, and he was going to be including it in his second book, his second manuscript, which never got published. But it's a very interesting toile. It's called the life of, or the tale of the horse, and it's in each of these little toile segments, it'll have the horse at a different point in its life. Like it started off as a like a hunting horse, like a steeplechase horse, and then it became the kind of horse that would carry these little can't remember what they call this, like a dray. I think it's it's just like a personal sports car. You need to have your horse. And then it became like an old nag on a farm, pulling a cart. And then by the end, the horse is dead. So, and all of this is on one toile. So I got excited for a minute and thought maybe that's what this is. But then as I looked at it in more detail, I could see like, oh no, this is just a farm pastoral kind of thing. I mean, look at this. Like, are they going around the maypole here? That's what it looks like to me. It's a maypole. And this one's interesting, I think, and I guess you do see this in other toiles, but like there's the distance, they've used distance, the size and scale to give you this sense of depth and distance. Very, very French. This one is a Hewitt. This is another toile by J.B. Hewitt, about 1785. Okay, so these are more copper plates. These look like, okay, they're not all the same. So this looks like it's in a quilt, in a whole, maybe a backing, maybe a whole cloth. These are like little cartouches, I guess. And this one says Le Marchand d'Amour, a toile print designed by Hippolyte Lebas around 1817. And then this one is called Le Loup and l'Agneau. So Le Loup is the wolf, but I don't know. What is Lagnu? It's Agneau. What is that French for? I'm trying to see. Is there... I don't... Well, here's an animal here. Is that a... I can't tell if it's a lamb, a sheep. I'm wondering if this is the sheep and a wolf. I don't know. Le Loup and Lagnu. Also, this one's J.B. Hewitt. I kind of like these toiles. They're, you know, again, like they're different style. And so that one's 1804, by the way. I kind of like these a little better than just, you know, your other standard toile. This one just says an older example of toile with allegorical scenes made in France in the 18th century. So this one would have been 1700s. But look how this one, I mean, this is, I got, you know, a copper plate print. But look at all the detail in here. Like this is very solid, like a very solid print, right? There's this like cross hatching. It's almost like an upholstered backing or something, and then you've got these like little scenes popping out of it. That is like, you know, that's very sophisticated. You know, this is coming from that technology of making prints like on paper. Whatever it is that is dinging on my computer's making me crazy. I'm sure I have like a whole bunch of tabs that are open. That's probably what that is. Okay. Moving right along. Well, this one's from the Art Institute of Chicago. Let's see. These other ones, they were Metropolitan Museum. And that last one was from the Edison Museum in Dearborn. So this one is an early chintz. So this says section of an Indienne's French block printed cotton made at Bordeaux or Nantes about 1770. So this would be where the French mills or fabric houses are looking at the palampours and the textiles from India. Hence, they're called Indiennes, and this is what they're putting out. And I think at this point, this is the point where Europe isn't quite as good as India. They're still a little, you know, they're still futzing around a little bit, but pretty soon France and England are gonna like really get good at this. And you know, and their output is gonna be, you know, just as good or indistinguishable. So this one is a peony design I saw. Let's see, this is 19th century English printed cotton in a tan chintz with all over peony design. I think I've seen this fabric or a very similar one to it, and it's very pretty. So like this background is almost like this like kind of light caramel brown, sort of a tan, and then you have these big beautiful white and pink peonies, if I remember correctly. And then of course you've got, you know, the green foliage. And you know, 19th century, not giving us a whole lot of information there anytime in the 1800s. But I guess if we could narrow it down, if we could see it in color, we could probably narrow it down a little bit more. I mean, obviously by style, and you know, this is a type of fabric I don't know what I don't know. But you know, I know we would better date it by how the leaves are made green, right? Because you know, they didn't have green dye or green printer's ink. The green dye for fabrics was, you know, much later. They would have to print yellow over blue or blue over yellow. And the little bit of offset that you'll sometimes find will tell you about that. Whereas if it's late 19th century, well, then you do have green dye. Sometimes that killed people and sometimes that didn't. One cool thing that they had, and I think I only got like one or two pictures of it, but in the galleries at the Winterthur, which I think when on Quilt Nerding the other night, I mentioned we only stopped in there for a few minutes because someone else who was with us had to go to the bathroom. She's pregnant, so it was like a good pit stop. She could go to the bathroom. We could like just run into the gallery and look at a few things. But they had this whole exhibit of dangerous decor, and it was things like they had like uranium glass, and they had the poison green wallpaper, and I think there might have been a dress or some other type of costume in there that was green fabric, and then there was one that was purple. It was something to do with a purple that dye that was or paint that was not safe. So I was like, oh, this is cool. I wish I had more time to have looked at that. So this, what we are looking at here, says a printed interlaced design on red cotton ground. I wouldn't have guessed this was red. Made about 1787 in Nantes, France. And that's from the Art Institute of Chicago. So yeah, this is chintzy, but a little bit different. I like this. It's got like a pillar print vibe to it, although obviously that's not a pillar print, because a pillar print would be literally a column. But it's got that very linear, stripey quality to it. Oh, the things you could do in making a quilt with this, right? Okay. And then these two. Let's see. The top one is a fragment of a quilted skirt in toile piente. I wonder if that means painted. Painted. It's a delicate design similar in feeling to a wallpaper, and it's French, 1783 to 1789. So that's this one. And then this one is detail of a polychrome quilt in hand-painted cotton made in France between 1783 and 1790. So, I mean, obviously the other one is a skirt, but this would have been a whole cloth quilt. Just, made out of beautiful fabric. And then I'm going to end on the next one, and we'll pick up where we left off next week. But, because this one's kind of interesting. There's a lot going on here. So this one says, this is a typical example of a French chinoiserie copperplate cotton design in the style of pillement. I don't know what that is. Pillement, Pillelement. So I'm wondering if that is that an artist or maybe a printing house. So yeah. But just look at the interesting things, and this idea of the chinoiserie. They were obsessed with the Far East, and particularly French fashion and design, and and of course it tumbles down to to England, and then to the US, with the upper class. They wanted the same stuff that this exotic stuff, because the poors couldn't buy this. So they were just obsessed with this stuff. But I mean, you see these like the period clothing of this woman, but then you see what are certainly Asian people, and I guess sort of the exoticism of what what's happening here. I guess this is like a little I'm forgetting the word for this. A palanquin? I think it's a palanquin. And so it's the thing where four people have to carry you on your little chair. And I mean, this is clearly not, these are not scenes of, life in an Asian country. These are scenes of some European ladies in an Asian country. this looks like maybe it could be some type of temple, or I'm not sure. They've got these lanterns or bells, all these tassels. Pretty neat looking stuff, but I mean, you wonder, what are they looking at to create these designs? Are these things they've seen with their own eyes? Are these things, they're coming back secondhand knowledge about these scenes? So here, it appears to me that these might be Europeans, whereas this person is from the Far East, but possibly not Asian. I mean, I don't know. I guess you'd have to do some research on these robes and this hat. And I can't tell if this person's face is just in shadow or if there's something on their face. Very interesting. Very interesting. Oh, and here's a guy. Well, this guy's interesting. Is that a tri-corner hat, or is that one of those, the hats that they would show workers in, like in rice paddies, wearing those little hats, kind of conical looking. I wonder. He's wearing knee breeches and what looks like a frock coat, so I'm assuming maybe this is a tri-corner hat. Would that be? Is that going to be time appropriate? What date did she give to this? Okay. There's no date on this. So in theory, yeah, this could be colonial era, or that person is a Westerner in an Asian country. Interesting stuff. All right. Well, that said, it is 4 o'clock on the dot my time, you guys. Drew, do you have some of those hats? They have a little chimney vent on top. Oh, you mean the conical hat? It's got like a little doodad on the top. Yeah. I think my brother-in-law has something like that for like being out in the garden, doing gardening. All right. Well, as I said, this weekend, Saturday, Jill and I will be doing a Stitch and Glitch on the Quilt Nerding YouTube, 2 p.m. Eastern time. Stop by if you're not doing anything, if you're just sewing or taking a break. Come hang out with us for a little bit. And beyond that, I will be back on Monday. We'll look at more of this stuff. I think there's still a couple more pages of fabric, and then we'll get into the quilts. So we'll speed that up a little bit and get to the quilts. So if I don't see you guys on Saturday, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Here's hoping that the wind dies down for Robin and it cools off for Druid. And hey, Marianne. I'm like, Marianne, I think you've had kind of coldish weather. Hopefully it's not snowing again. Our stinking crazy weather, you guys. So, yeah, so take it easy, and I will see you guys soon. So, mwah! Bye! Ice, baby.